And what we're looking for is brands that are going to work with us and help drive that exposure, drive the awareness, and really help leverage that core, fan base that we have in Germany of NBA fans. And we know that they're a very strong, passionate and young fan base. And, for a lot of brands, being able to reach that young audience is really key. And I think we can deliver that as the NBA.
Grüß dich und herzlich willkommen im Sports Maniac Podcast. Die heutige Folge wird euch präsentiert von Kampai. Mehr Infos zur digitalen Vereinssoftware, die eure Vereinsverwaltung einfacher macht, findet ihr unter sportsmaniac.de/Kampai. Heute überqueren wir den großen Teich und sprechen passend zum Start in die neue NBA-Saison über die Marketingaktivitäten der NBA in Europa und im Speziellen in Deutschland. Mein Gast ist Mark Osikoya, Associate Vice President Global Partnerships bei der NBA, der das Commercial Partnership Team von der NBA in Europa und Middle East in London leitet. Mit Mark sprechen wir unter anderem über die Ziele und Marketingaktivitäten der NBA in Europa, die Liebe der Deutschen zum US-Sport und wie die NBA davon profitiert, ein, Spoiler, mögliches NBA-Spiel in Deutschland und mit welchen Partnern und Sponsoren die NBA hierzulande auch kommerziell Erfolge feiert. Mein Name ist Daniel Sprügel und wenn ihr heute zum ersten Mal reinhört, abonniert den Podcast in eurer Podcast-App, teilt ihn gerne, wenn er euch gefällt, mit Freunden und Kollegen. Und wenn ihr auf der Suche seid nach einem spannenden Social-Media-Job, bewerbt euch bei uns im Team von Maniac Studios. Mehr Infos in den Shownotes. Und jetzt viel Spaß hier in der Folge 388 des Sports Maniac Podcast. Yeah, welcome to our show. Thanks for being my guest.
Good to see you and nice to meet you.
Yeah, Mark, before we start digging into the topics we have on our list, what's your role within the NBA?
So my role, as you sort of outlined in the introduction, really, is to head up the commercial team across the Europe and the Middle East region. The office is based in London, and we have probably about 70 people in the office as a whole. And within the commercial team, there's probably about 13, 14 people. So the responsibilities from our side are across sponsorship, business development, licensing and merchandising. And we're trying to grow commercial revenues for the league across the Europe and Middle East region as a whole.
Yeah, in the last years, the NBA has established a major international presence with more than 15 offices around the globe. Can you give us some intro on the target markets of the NBA globally and, of course, of the relevance of the European market?
Yeah, I mean, I think I should have probably pointed out as well in terms of my role, we do work quite closely with our colleagues in other offices and also with our colleagues in New York. Obviously, the head office is in New York. As a commercial function, we work closely with them and we also work closely with our colleagues in the other offices that you've mentioned. I mean, I think we're fortunate as a league that the appeal of the league is quite broad. So, in terms of a target market or a target audience, we have a broad appeal, which I think works in our favor. We're strongest in terms of an audience is probably the 18 to 34 age group, particularly in Europe. Almost 50% of our fans in Europe from the research that we do are within the 18 to 34 age bracket. So that's a real focus for us as well, particularly in this region. And really what we're trying to do as much as possible is we're trying to grow that fan base as much as possible. And we're trying to sort of bring to that existing fan base as much of the NBA as we possibly can, whether it is through merchandise or whether it's through broadcast or digital. We're trying to provide that fan base with as much content and as much ability to interact with the NBA as we possibly can.
And when did you decide, let's go to Europe, let's go to the German market especially?
It's a good question, actually, because it's before my time, but the office in Europe originally was in Paris and then it moved to London, I think, about 12 years ago. So we play more games in Europe as a region than we have in any other region outside North America. So we're getting we're over sort of 90 games at the moment that we've played in Europe, and that's pre-season games and regular season games. The last regular season game in Europe was in Paris, but prior to that, we had 9 in a row in the UK. So I think you can see, for quite a considerable period, we've focused on Europe as an important market for us to grow beyond the US. Germany specifically has always been an important market. Obviously, there's a real strong culture from a basketball point of view in Germany with people like Dirk. And so we've always tried to focus on Germany. My first year at the NBA actually was when we brought the San Antonio Spurs over to play Alba Berlin.
Was it 2014?
or beginning of 2015, but I think it was a pre-season game at the end of 2014. And I think Alba Berlin won, actually, if I remember rightly. It's always been an important market. I think what we try to do within Europe is prioritize sort of the key markets for us, and Germany has always been one of those. Our focus specifically on Germany has increased probably within the past 12 to 18 months as a result of the partnership we have with Sport5 in the market. And also, our plans to open a store in Berlin later this year as well, which will be the first NBA store that we open in the market. So there has been a bit of a shift in the last maybe 12, 18 months, but Germany has always been an important market for us.
Can you put that in numbers? So what are your goals? Is it increasing sales, increasing marketing, increasing merchandising, or is it just more social media followers? What's the main goal, and can you put it in numbers?
It's difficult to put it in numbers, but I think the main goal is to grow our fan base really as much as we can. So, the last research that we did said we have about 9 million fans in Germany, and that's people who describe themselves as an NBA fan and have either, consumed the NBA through broadcast or they bought merchandise, etc. So the focus primarily really is to grow that fan base as much as possible. Obviously, my specific role is around generating commercial revenues. And we do that primarily through partnerships in the market that help deliver the fan base, what they need from an NBA point of view, but also help generate revenues for the NBA. So I think first and foremost, it's about growing the fan base. It's about bringing the NBA to as many people as we can. And then in terms of my specific role, my role is more focused on how we then use that to help drive revenues for the league.
Let's talk about driving the revenues for the league. You have a vast experience working for major sponsors like Barclays, Coca-Cola, Burger King, and Adidas. How do you bring that in your role at the NBA? So what is your main goal? What is your work on your daily basis?
I think having that experience on the brand side and the rights holder side is very helpful, because I think it allows you to put yourself in the position of brands and partners that you're speaking to, and you understand, I think, better what helps drive them, what their objectives are, and what they're looking to deliver through a partnership. I think it helps bring a bit more empathy to the situation when you're talking to brands. So I think that's what my experience helps bring. Day to day, there isn't any day that's the same as any other day, really. I'm talking to you today for this podcast. Tomorrow, we have a prospect meeting in Paris. Tomorrow, we've got 3 separate meetings, and then we're doing an event in the evening with Alex Caruso from the Chicago Bulls, because the Bulls are coming over to play in Paris in January. And so I'm at that event hosting the prospects there, and then back to London on the Thursday for meetings in London as well. So it's very varied, which is why I enjoy it. But no one day is the same. But really my focus is much more external rather than internally within the NBA, and trying to engage with prospective partners, prospective brands who are looking to try and achieve their objectives through an NBA partnership.
You are working together with Sport5 in Germany and Infront in Italy, for example, for finding or closing new sponsorship deals. Why do you count on external partners and marketing agencies and don't do it by yourself? Well,
primarily, we do it by ourselves, actually. They're exceptional circumstances, I think, for those two markets. On the whole, the team that we have within the London office focuses on driving those partnerships from within the team. What we try to do in those two markets is sort of a reflection more on where we might feel we have gaps. So we might have a gap in terms of we don't have a German speaker, but actually German is an important market for us because we're focusing on opening the Berlin store. There's an increasing number of German players playing in the NBA. And therefore, we want to put more focus on that market. So in order for us to try and sort of fill that gap, we would work with an expert in the market like Sport5, who can deliver us a ready-made network. They can deliver us contacts with brands. And more importantly, they can deliver us knowledge of the market as well. So actually, that model isn't a traditional model for the NBA, and it's quite an exceptional model for us. Primarily, the focus for our sales approach and reaching brands is done through our in-house team.
When I think about sponsoring, I think about panel advertising, in-stadium advertising, but that's not that what you are selling, because you don't have a game here in Europe and you don't put panel advertising of a German advertiser on the panel in the arena in the US. So what are you selling to your partners in Europe?
We do have a game in Europe. So we have the NBA Europe game. So we have one game a year, which, I mean, effectively is almost like our European All-Star. So there is opportunities for brands to partner with us around that game, get exposure around the court, get exposure in the lead up to the game, and obviously get a significant presence on the evening of the game as well. I would say that's sort of our core asset. As I've said, we've moved the game from the UK to France, and the first year we did the game in France, we got a significant number of additional partners off the back of doing that game in market. So that really helps. Outside of that, what we're really selling is the ability to partner with the NBA and use NBA marks, IP, assets promotionally with your consumers to drive affinity and to try and drive awareness as well. So we have a number of partners across the region in markets where we don't have games. As an example, in Italy, we have a partnership with San Carlo, who are the chips manufacturer. They have done 2 on-pack promotions as part of that partnership where they offer the opportunity to win prizes. They offer consumers the opportunity to sort of interact with the NBA through an on-pack promotion. So I do think there's a number of ways that brands can leverage an NBA partnership, and it doesn't have to be linked to delivering exposure courtside through LED boards. So I think what it's taught us is to be flexible in our approach to brands. I don't think any one of our partnerships is the same, either in the length of the partnership or the scope of the partnership or the rights that we offer. We've been flexible, and we've had to be flexible because as we're one game a season in market. Although obviously the other change to that this coming season will be the 2 games that we have in Abu Dhabi, which is now part of our region as well. So it's an interesting balance. It's an interesting challenge, but I think it's one that means, we have to be flexible and we have to respond to what brands want.
I want to talk about one specific partnership because when I was in the hospital or was on my way to the hospital in July, I saw an out-of-home advertising with Hennessy and the logo of the NBA. What is that partnership about?
Well, it's an interesting one, actually, because Hennessy were originally a US partner, and then they expanded their partnership to become global in 2021. And they are one of the brands that has really got on board with the 75th anniversary celebrations last season. So last season was the 75th anniversary of the NBA. And Hennessy really got behind that. And globally, they did a campaign which was called Courts Beyond Limits. And that saw them basically create a number of pop-up court locations in quite iconic but unusual locations across the world. So in the UK, for example, they created a floating court on the River Thames, and they floated a basketball court down the Thames, and they had various music stars, influencers, etc., take part on that court. There was a pop-up court in Berlin as well, which they did in the summer. So they did bring that activation to Germany as well. And it was a really successful campaign for them. But yeah, they've grown from becoming a US only partner to now a global partner. And they're one of the brands that really do activate behind that partnership really strongly.
Do you have other examples of partnerships? What comes in my mind was, I guess, Beeston. Did you also work together with them?
We did a collection, like an apparel collection with Beeston, sort of limited edition licensing collection with them earlier this year, which was really successful. We've also partnered from a licensing point of view. Now we've partnered with Tommy Jeans as well this year. But other marketing partnerships, probably the one that most people would be aware of is Foot Locker. It's a European partnership, so it's not a global one. It's one that originated from our office. We drove that partnership. And Foot Locker are a European partner of the NBA. Over the last year or so, they have refurbished courts in Barcelona and London and Paris. And this summer, they did a 3-on-3 tournament with the NBA in the courts in London and in Barcelona as well. So I think that's a really good example of a brand that's activated an NBA partnership across Europe, not just in one market.
As we're having a lot of marketing executives listening to the podcast, what is the perfect partner for you and for the NBA here in Europe, and maybe especially for Germany?
Really the perfect partnership for us is a brand that is committed to activation. So I think a brand that really is going to work with the NBA and help activate the partnership in Germany. I think we're pretty realistic about our position in Germany versus football, for example. And what we're looking for is brands that are going to work with us and help drive that exposure, drive the awareness, and really help leverage that core fan base that we have in Germany of NBA fans. And we know that they're a very strong, passionate and young fan base. And, for a lot of brands, being able to reach that young audience is really key. And I think we can deliver that as the NBA. But the perfect partnership really is a brand that's going to work with us on doing that, but then really activate and bring the partnership to life. And, the two brands that we talked about there, Hennessy and Foot Locker, are brands that have really done that. And as I mentioned previously in Italy, we've had great partnerships with San Carlo and also Ubi Banca. That's another brand that, they really committed to the partnership in Italy and created a whole load of NBA branded merchandise and NBA branded cards in their banks and created a bespoke bank account as well around the NBA. From an ideal world, we're really looking for a partner that's going to take our partnership to the next level and really help activate and bring that to as many of our fans within Germany as we can.
Yeah, our listeners know that if they want to buy an panel advertising at the Bundesliga for 17 home games, they have to pay 160,000 euros or maybe more or less. What do you have to bring to the table to partner with the NBA?
I think it's difficult to throw a figure out there because, as I've said, every one of our partnerships is different. We don't really have a standardized package, particularly in markets where we don't have the game. We have standardized packages around the game itself, but within Germany, I think the starting point for us is to understand what the objectives of the brand are. Once we've understood what those objectives are and what the budget is that is available, we can then work with the brand to put something together that's bespoke. What I would say, and partners at Sport 5 would back this up, is that I think in terms of what the investment level is, it's not what people expect. I think it is much, much more reasonable than people expect. And it's not at that high end because we can focus the partnerships on one market. We can focus the partnerships on one region if we want to, or we can make the partnerships global. But our starting point for the conversations we're having in Germany really is the DACH region. And for that reason, proposals that we've gone out with Sport 5 are, I think, are priced very competitively for what we're able to offer.
As you already mentioned, you are going to open a store here in Berlin. I hope we see each other when you are here in Berlin for the store opening. One question, you do this together with Fanatics. Why do you choose Fanatics as a perfect partner to open the store and push your shirt sales and merchandising sales here in Germany?
The Fanatics partnership is based primarily around the online offering. So their ability to be able to sell merchandise for us. They're the largest provider of licensed sport merchandise globally. So their ability to be able to operate NBAstore.com in various locations across the world is very important. They can deliver that consistency in various markets. The store in Germany is actually being run by Lids, who are part of the same group as Fanatics, but Lids are obviously a specialist in on-site retail rather than online retail. And I think that's an important distinction to make because we're partnering with someone there who is used to running physical stores and is able to run those stores. So Lids operate the store in the UK. We've just opened a store in Paris this summer, which they're operating, and then Berlin is the next one. Outside of that, we have one other store in Europe, which is in Milan, in Italy, which is run by another operator. I think we feel globally that Fanatics are the right partner for us across retail, and Lids, certainly in terms of physical retail locations, are the right partner for us, and certainly the right partner for us in Germany.
Yeah, in Germany, we have special networks like Intersport or Sports 2000. In France, you're working together with Decathlon, I guess. Do you think that this kind of partnership works out in Germany as well?
I mean, the Decathlon partnership is an interesting one because it is more led by licensing. So their ability to produce licensed merchandise and sell it in their stores. Our official retail partner is Foot Locker. So the Decathlon partnership is not really based on them as a retailer. It's more based on them as a licensee who can produce a specific range of products that they're able to sell in their stores. We are always looking for ways that we can enter other markets that we aren't in currently. And so we're always open to conversations with potential licensing partners about how we can extend our range and how we can extend our sort of awareness as well into other markets.
As we see, for example, in the NFL, teams are allowed to do marketing and sales here in Europe. Are the NBA teams allowed to do sales and marketing as well?
Yes, they are. I mean, that's actually something that's changed since I've been at the NBA. When I first joined the NBA, the teams weren't allowed to market beyond their home market in the US. They were sort of tied to a geographical limit within the US as well. So any international marketing was down to the NBA league office rather than teams. Now the teams have an ability to have international marketing partners, and a number of teams have been active in that area. The Lakers specifically have a partnership with DWS in Germany. And, we know from our conversations with teams that there are teams that are actively looking at Europe, and some teams looking at Germany specifically to try and deliver marketing partnerships as well. So the main difference really is our model allows any of the 30 teams to sell any of the markets across Europe, and in any of the regions globally as well. So we have a lot more flexibility around what teams can do, who they can target, which markets they can go to. So that's something that's changed. I think some teams are taking advantage of it now. Other teams, I think, are waiting to see, how things pan out and then deciding what to do. But we know the Lakers, as I've said, have already got a partnership in Germany, and there's other teams that are actively looking for partnerships across Europe as well.
You already mentioned the Paris game 2023. January 19th, the Detroit Pistons are facing the Chicago Bulls in Paris. What do you expect from the game, marketing-wise?
I hope it's sold out. I mean, the last game in Paris was sold out very quickly, and we sold out every one of the games we had in London, the regular season games. So first and foremost, we hope it's sold out. From a marketing point of view, as I mentioned before, the opportunity to have a game in market is a great way to sort of get brands engaged with the NBA, maybe brands that aren't that familiar with the NBA as a spectacle. And I think when you get someone to a game, particularly a regular season game, it really hits home. Everything that we're trying to deliver and everything we're trying to communicate about the NBA is sort of there, and you can experience it in the flesh. So for us, it's a great opportunity to get brands engaged with what we're delivering and really get people to understand what the NBA experience is about. So I think first and foremost, we hope that it's a great occasion. It's a great spectacle. We hope it's sold out. But from my point of view, I think we hope that it's a great opportunity and a platform for us to then be able to engage with brands and demonstrate what that NBA experience, that live NBA experience is. And off the back of that, hopefully, leverage some really successful partnerships with brands in Europe.
Yeah, of course, the German basketball fans are excited about the NBA in Europe as well. And they want to know, when will there be a potential game in Germany?
I was expecting that question. I can't believe it's taken this long. I thought that would be the first question. We have the commitment for the game in January 23 in Paris. And beyond that, we're always looking at opportunities to bring the game back to Europe. The decision on where the games go is really a combination of things. One is the arena and the facilities. Is it a big enough arena? Are the facilities enough to be able to host a regular season game? Because the requirements for a regular season game are very different from the requirements for a pre-season game. So some of the venues that we've been to previously for pre-season games, we couldn't consider for a regular season game. The second one really is around the teams themselves. Do the teams want to come to Europe? If so, what are their preferred markets to come to? We have to factor that in as well. So there's a number of things that sort of in the mix, and a number of things that make up that equation about where we're going to with games. But what I would say is, we are actively now looking at which markets we should be prioritizing for games beyond the Paris game in 23. And obviously, I've already outlined to your guests that the priority markets for us within Europe, and Germany is one of those. So I think if you're a German basketball fan, you can hold out hope that you're in our thoughts in terms of where the game goes to next, but we haven't made a decision yet. And there are a number of different factors that come into the equation. But, from a personal point of view, given the focus that we've placed on Germany over the past 12 to 18 months, it would be fantastic to be able to bring a game to Germany.
We're looking forward to your announcement anytime soon. If you need a platform to announce it, just give me a call.
I will do.
One personal question. Lately, I watched the Netflix movie The Hustle with Adam Sandler about a Spanish basketball talent on his way to the NBA. Does this kind of content help you with your goals here in Europe?
I've seen that film as well, actually. And obviously there was a big NBA involvement in that film. I think any content like that helps. I think the biggest impact has probably been The Last Dance over the last sort of 2 to 3 years, because I guess the timing of when it was launched during lockdown I guess because of the content, I guess because it involved Michael Jordan. But that, it feels like for us, that was a real sort of, that provided a game changer in terms of being able to have conversations with brands and people that maybe aren't huge NBA fans, but they're aware of the NBA through something like The Last Dance and because of Netflix. So I think that was a real game changer. But I think on the whole, any content that's NBA related, even things like the last Space Jam movie that came out 2 or 3 years ago, that is all great for us. And it provides a great platform for us to be able to go in and talk to brands. Because I think what it demonstrates is that the NBA crosses over beyond sport, and the NBA crosses over into popular culture. The fact that, we're talking about a film with Adam Sandler in is a great example of that. And Space Jam was a great example of it. And The Last Dance was a great example of it. So I think any opportunities like that where we can demonstrate the ability of the NBA to cross over into entertainment and popular culture, it's a real benefit for us and what we're trying to do in the region.
Yeah, you can see it, for example, for the Formula One with the Netflix series Drive to Survive, how the Formula One gained massive followers and, of course, fans in the US. Maybe you can turn it around about the NBA and put out some special content, giving more insights. You already have great insights into the league, but maybe even more insights, for example, with the German players in the league.
We're always trying to find ways to bring the NBA to different audiences and to create content that does that. Recently, you might have seen the NBA Creator series that we launched around artists, and that was focused on Europe. It was focused specifically on artists in Europe, and it was a way of sort of trying to bring the NBA beyond the court, I guess, into popular culture. But it was led by the content. So I think we are looking at ways we can broaden the appeal of the NBA to a broader audience, and the NBA Creator series was a good example of that.
Mark, thanks for the nice chat, for the insights you gave us and our listeners about the NBA here in Europe and especially in Germany. What can we expect from the NBA in the next few months or years?
Well, I mean, as I said, I think the next big milestone for us is the opening of the store, which will be in autumn this year. That's going to be the biggest store in Europe. So that's a big moment for us. I think beyond that, we're looking to Germany as a market where we have a lot of fans and where we want to try and bring as much content as we possibly can. Hopefully that content is both physical events, but also digital as well. It's a really important market for us. It's a focus for us. The immediate priority is the store. And we want that store to be successful, and we want it to be a real destination for NBA fans in Germany as well. And then beyond that, we'll work collaboratively with our partners in Germany to try and bring as much NBA content to our fan base there as we possibly can.
Thank you, Mark Osikoya from the NBA. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the store opening here in Berlin. All the best to London. Goodbye.
Thanks very much.
Vielen Dank fürs Reinhören. Schaut jetzt gerne mal vorbei bei unserem Partner Kampai. Wenn ihr noch bei der Verwaltung eures Vereins Excel-Listen nutzt, dann stellt das bitte zukünftig ein. Denn genau hierfür ist die digitale Vereinssoftware von Kampai die Lösung für euch. Egal ob Mitgliederverwaltung, automatisierte Mailings und Postversand, Buchhaltung mit Online-Banking oder offene Schnittstelle zu anderen Systemen wie zum Beispiel eurem Ticketing-Anbieter. Die Software von Kampai kann all das und noch viel mehr und wird auch schon bundesligareif genutzt, unter anderem von Alba Berlin, Ratio Farm Ulm, dem SC Paderborn oder dem 1. FC Magdeburg. Genau hierfür ist die digitale Vereinssoftware von Kampai die Lösung. Wenn ihr eure Vereinsverwaltung aufs nächste Level bringen wollt, dann geht jetzt auf sportsmaniac.de/Kampai, C-A-M-P-A-I geschrieben. Mit dem Code MANIAC15 bekommt ihr zudem 15% Rabatt. sportsmaniac.de/Kampai. Noch eine Frage, bevor du abschaltest. Für unser Team von Maniac Studios und Sports Maniac sind wir auf der Suche nach einem oder einer Social Media Managerin. Wenn du ein Händchen für die Erstellung digitaler Inhalte hast, Social Media und Podcast genau dein Ding sind und du dich selbst verwirklichen willst, oder auch jemand kennst, der das will, dann hier ist die einmalige Chance. Geh jetzt auf maniacstudios.com/jobs, da findest du alle Infos dazu, ebenso in den Shownotes, oder schreib mir direkt eine Nachricht auf LinkedIn, Instagram, wo auch immer. Keine Ahnung, wer du bist, aber wir werden nach dir suchen und wir werden uns finden. Mach's gut und ciao, ciao. Der Sports Maniac Podcast ist eine Produktion von Maniac Studios.